What if I told you there's a skill that lets you peek into the future? Nope, I'm not talking about a crystal ball. I'm talking about data. It's called forecasting, and honestly, it's one of the most powerful and profitable skills in the entire business world. It's all about turning the chaos of what might happen into a serious competitive advantage.
So, just how high are the stakes? Well, let's talk about a little company called Starbucks. They're serving 140 million people every single week. Now, you imagine being the person who has to make sure every store has exactly what it needs. You get it right, it's just another Tuesday. But if you get it wrong, oh, you've got a catastrophe on your hands.
Because on one side, if you under-forecast, you don't order enough pumpkin spice stuff for the fall, you get this: empty shelves. A customer walks in totally excited, and you got to be the one to say, sorry, we're out. And that's not just one lost sale. That's a moment of pure frustration. And that frustration, it builds up. When a company can't deliver on the hype it created, people lose trust. I mean, one bad experience, okay, maybe they forget. But when it becomes a pattern, you're basically telling your customers you're unreliable, and you're sending them right across the street to the competition.
Okay, but what about the flip side? It's just as bad. What if you over-forecast? You order way too much, thinking there's going to be a huge rush that just never happens. Now you've got stacks and stacks of coffee beans and milk that are about to expire. For a company as big as Starbucks, a tiny error can mean millions of dollars down the drain. Pure waste.
So there it is. That's the high-stakes balancing act. This tightrope walk between making your customers angry and literally throwing money in the trash. That is the exact problem forecasting is built to solve. It's not about being perfect. No way. It's about being smart.
So, how do we get smart? The answer, and this is the cool part, is hiding in plain sight. It's right there in your past sales data. Learning to read this stuff isn't some kind of magic. It's a skill. It's about spotting the hidden story that the numbers are trying to tell you about where things are headed. Now take a look at this. At first glance, this just looks like a bunch of random dots, right? Just noise. But it's not. This is a story. And for us, this story has two main characters that you have to understand: trend and seasonality. First up, you've got the trend. This is the big picture, the long-term direction. Think of it like this. If you're driving, are you generally going uphill, downhill, or is the road pretty much flat? Spotting that overall trend, that straight red line right there, that's step one to knowing where you're going. And then we've got seasonality. See those predictable waves in the data? That's it. Seasonality is all about those repeating cycles you can count on. It's why we buy more hot coffee in the winter and more ice cream in the summer. These aren't just random spikes. They are patterns you can and absolutely should plan for. All right, so you can see the patterns. Now what? Well, now you need the right tools to actually use them. Think of these forecasting models as like smarter rearview mirrors. They help us look at the recent past to make a really good guess about the immediate future.
The very first tool in your toolkit is the simple moving average, and it does exactly what its name says. It takes the demand from the last few periods, let's say the last 3 weeks, it adds them up, divides by 3, and boom, that average is your new forecast for next week. It's a fantastic way to smooth out the random noise, especially when your demand is pretty stable.
But what if demand isn't stable? What if you want to be more responsive? That's when you upgrade to a weighted moving average. And here's the key difference. Instead of treating the last 3 weeks as equally important, this method says, hey, what happened last week is probably a better clue than what happened 3 weeks ago. So you give last week's sales more weight, maybe 50%, and less to the older data. By doing that, your forecast gets way smarter and reacts to new trends much faster. And this, right here, this is the workplace win. Why should you care about this stuff right now as a student? Because if you're an intern and your boss is stressing out about how much inventory to order, you can be the person who says, I could build a simple weighted moving average in Excel to help us figure that out. I'm telling you, that is a total game changer. That's how you become indispensable.
So, let's bring it all together. At the end of the day, forecasting isn't just some math problem. When you learn how to do this, you're gaining a strategic superpower: the ability to turn messy, raw data into clear, confident decisions. Now, there's a famous saying in operations, and you absolutely have to know it. It goes like this: the only thing certain about a forecast is that it will be wrong. Yeah, you heard me. Because we can't perfectly predict the future. Random stuff always happens.
But see, that's not the point. Perfection isn't the goal.
The goal is to be less wrong than everybody else, because in business, being consistently less wrong about what your customers are going to want tomorrow, that is a genuine superpower.
And this superpower lets you make smarter decisions across the board. You'll know how many people to have working on Saturday. You'll stop wasting money on stuff you don't need, and you'll stop running out of the stuff you do. It aligns the whole operation, turning numbers on a spreadsheet into powerful strategic action.
So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know what to look for, the trends, the seasons, the hidden stories that are in the data all around us, what patterns are you going to be the first to spot tomorrow?